I'm going to kick things off quickly. I am Tyler Manier. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at the New Jersey Healthcare Quality Institute. I am also the co-lead of the Essential Jobs Essential Care Coalition, along with my other co-lead from PHI, Jake McDonald. We are also generously funded by the Henry and Marilyn Taub Foundation. So to kick things off today, the Essential Jobs Essential Care Coalition, we are working to transform direct care jobs in the state. We are about 70 or so organizations and individuals across New Jersey that come together to advocate for policy changes, to support and grow the direct care workforce. That includes certified homemaker home health aides, certified nursing assistants or nurse aides, and direct support professionals. So if you are not yet a member of the Essential Jobs Essential Care Coalition, we invite you to join us. My colleague Isa is going to pop a link in the chat to join the coalition, so please sign up. The topic for today's webinar is state worker benefits and protections, including the new Domestic Workers Bill of Rights. You're going to learn about minimum wage, overtime, paid leave, and some additional Department of Labor programs and resources. And this session will be helpful for employers to understand their obligations and also for employees to know their work rights. So with that, I'd like to introduce Commissioner Asaro Angelo to make a few remarks and to kick off our webinar. The commissioner was nominated by Governor Murphy to serve as commissioner in 2018. And as commissioner, he is proud to oversee the state's diverse services for New Jersey workers. Commissioner.
Thank you, Tyler. Afternoon, everybody. Happy week start, as we say here at the Department of Labor. Excited you all took the time today to learn about these important rights, because we appreciate the opportunity to talk to you about the protections and benefits for all workers and how they also benefit our employers. Our state's direct care workforce, along with the businesses that employ them, play a vital role in strengthening our communities. So it's crucial that both direct care workers and their employers are supported and valued, because together they form the backbone of our workforce, ensuring that individuals pursue their professional responsibilities, their loved ones continue to receive the dedicated care and the attention they need at the same time. It's our duty as a department to ensure these workers are supported and protected while also providing employers with state resources and information. We're very focused on compliance in this department, not just enforcement. Under the Murphy administration, New Jersey has significantly enhanced worker benefits and protections. Under our governor's vision of a stronger and fairer economy for all, we want every single New Jerseyan to have access to the opportunity to succeed through gainful employment. In the past 7 years, not that anybody's counting, I think we have 296 days left in the Murphy administration. In our time, we've raised the minimum wage, expanded paid family and medical leave, implemented earned sick leave, reinforced laws to combat misclassification of employees as independent contractors, launched a proactive enforcement strategy so no worker that gets left behind. We've codified rights and protections for temporary laborers and domestic workers, obviously, and much, much more. As a result of these things, New Jersey has seen historic growth in both workers and employers. The landmark Domestic Workers Bill of Rights, which went into effect last summer, exemplifies our commitment to fair treatment and dignity for all workers. It established a broad range of rights, including fair wages, rest breaks, and protection from harassment and discrimination, bringing protections to some 50,000 domestic workers who have previously been excluded from certain state labor laws. In 2020, Governor Murphy signed a law requiring direct care staff at long-term facilities be paid $3 more than the state minimum wage. This increase reflects the state's commitment to valuing and supporting these essential workers who provide critical care. Our proactive enforcement strategy ensures compliance and supports responsible employers, creating a level playing field. We have dedicated teams to investigate complaints and conduct inspections. We also offer resources and guidance to employers to help them understand and meet their obligations. In addition to these protections, we're focused on empowering our direct care workforce through training and development. Last year, we were chosen as one of 6 states to participate in U.S. Department of Health and Human Services' first technical assistance program to help us better recruit, train, and retain direct care workers. Offered through the Administration of Community Living's Direct Care Workforce Strategy Center, this initiative provided up to 250 hours of individualized technical assistance, along with coaching and support from subject matter experts. Our team included representatives from our state's Medicaid, aging, disability, and workforce development agencies, demonstrating Governor Murphy's whole-of-government approach to serving New Jerseyans. We've also expanded apprenticeship programs across the state by more than 130% since 2018. The Earn While You Learn model is giving workers a chance to gain the skills and certifications they need to excel in their careers while earning a wage. Our grant programs have funded placement of apprentices as certified nursing assistants, certified home health aides, personal care assistants, and other essential healthcare roles. They not only enhance the capabilities of our workforce and offer pathways for advancement, but also support employers by helping to cover training costs and subsidize wages. I'm extremely proud of the progress we've made on all these fronts, but we know there's always more to be done. We'll continue working to uplift direct care workers and all workers across New Jersey. Our employers are integral partners in building fair and equitable workplaces, contributing significantly to the well-being of their workers and the overall health of their businesses. We recognize and applaud the many high-road employers who are here today, setting an example by upholding the highest standards of fairness. Your commitment not only benefits your employees, but also strengthens the fabric of our communities and our state's economy. Together, we can continue building a New Jersey where every worker is respected and every employer thrives in an equitable and just environment. Thanks again for having us here today. I'm going to turn it over to Holly Lowe and Rebecca Glynn from our outreach team to talk more in depth about the rights and benefits you have as New Jersey workers. I look forward to following along and listening to any questions you may have. Thank you, Tyler, for having me here today.
Thank you so much, Commissioner. Appreciate it. And I'm just going to mention a couple of other folks that are on the call as well. We've got Armini Pierre-Jacques from my team at the Quality Institute. She works with me on the EJEC Coalition, so you folks may have seen her as well. We also have Kim King-Webster from the Commissioner's Office. She's the Manager for Outreach and Engagement. She's here to help the Department of Labor staff. So thanks all for putting your names and titles and organizations in the chat. I think it's great to see all the different organizations represented here. And I know I see some questions coming in as well. We're going to get to questions and answers at the end of the presentation, but please feel free to throw them in the chat box as you think of them. And so we have two great folks from the department here to speak to us today about a couple different things. So I am going to first send it to Holly Lowe. She's the Director of Strategic Outreach and Partnerships, and she's going to talk to us today about work rights and paid leave. I'm going to stop sharing here, Holly, so you can put your slides up.
Great. Thank you so much, Tyla. Rebecca's going to bring up our slide deck, and it is great to be here today. Big thank you to the Essential Jobs, Essential Care Coalition for putting this together, especially to Tyla and Jake for working with us. As Tyla said, I'm Holly Lowe. I'm the Director of Strategic Outreach and Partnerships at the department. I've been here since 2018, and our team oversees outreach and education, including our CARE grant program and partnership initiatives in a range of areas, including early care and education, direct care, and maternal health. I'm really happy to be here with you today, and I hope the information we've put together is helpful, and we really look forward to addressing any questions you might have. And feel free to put questions in the chat throughout, and we can answer them if possible throughout, or save them for the Q&A at the end. So we always start with our disclaimer, which is that this presentation provides general information for the public, and the Register and Administrative Code are the official sources for regulatory information. For a portion of our presentation today, the Domestic Workers Bill of Rights, which the Commissioner mentioned, the rulemaking process is underway. So the notice of proposal for new rules to implement the bill will likely be published sometime in the spring or early summer. It'll be published both in the New Jersey Register and on New Jersey Department of Labor's website, specifically on our legal notices page. And after the rule proposal is published, there's a 60-day period to submit written comments to our department, and any member of the public can submit comments to us during that time. So today, the Domestic Workers Bill of Rights portion is based on the statute, not on those proposed new rules. So we'll do our best to answer any questions based on our understanding of the statutory requirements. Okay, so here's our roadmap for today. We have a lot to cover and wanted to have plenty of time for Q&A. So really, we're covering these topics high level today. We'll be discussing our work rights in New Jersey, our cash benefit programs, the Domestic Workers Bill of Rights, and then we're going to discuss some of our business services that we have available at the department to support employers, as well as career services for our workforce. And then we'll have our Q&A. So first, we want to share that the New Jersey Department of Labor's mission is to protect our workforce, strengthen our businesses, and promote the dignity of work. Our programs include income security like family and medical leave, unemployment and workers' comp, and we also enforce our labor laws and public sector health and safety laws, and provide career services at our one-stops throughout the state, and business services and grant programs as well. Okay, so we can jump into work rights now. So as I mentioned, our department enforces our state labor laws, and these include earned sick leave, minimum wage and overtime, misclassification, wage payment, and more. And we're going to go into each of these. When we talk about our wage and hour laws or our state labor laws, we always like to emphasize that immigrant workers are covered by these laws, regardless of their status. We don't ask about citizenship. We have strong regulations to protect the personal information of workers. We don't voluntarily share workers' personal information with federal immigration authorities. And if those authorities request any information from us, they have to present a valid subpoena or warrant signed by a judge. And you can learn more about this at nj.gov/labor/immigrants. We just refreshed that webpage and added new resources. And just a side note, that page and all of our pages on our site can be translated with the translation button at the top right. So keep an eye out for that. Okay, so the earned sick leave law. So this is a relatively new law. It passed early in the Murphy administration in 2018. And under this law, employers have to pay their employees for up to 40 hours of earned sick leave per year. Employees earn 1 hour of sick leave for every 30 hours they work. And this law is really broad and comprehensive. It covers nearly all employees in New Jersey, whether full-time, part-time, or temporary. There's very few exceptions in terms of employees covered. And when it comes to frontline direct care workers, which we're focused on today, really the majority would be covered. Possibly, if any of you have per diem healthcare workers, you could meet that exemption, but it's quite specific. And you can learn more about that in the regs, in the regulations. And this law covers all employers in the state, regardless of their size. A lot of our labor laws and other laws differ by employer size, but this one does not. Okay, you could have one employee, and if they are covered, you must provide them sick time. Earned sick leave also applies to employees regardless of how they're paid, whether cash, piece rate, or salary. So we like to emphasize that the earned sick leave law it's more than being sick. It has a lot more coverage. It's about caregiving for a loved one, wellness care, coping with domestic or sexual violence, or providing care to a loved one in that situation. Earned sick leave can also be used when your school requests your presence for a meeting, conference, or event. And it also has special uses during public health emergencies. And you can learn more about the earned sick leave law at mysickdays.nj.gov. We have information both for employers and employees there. Okay, so now we have an overview of minimum wage and overtime. So employers have to provide regular pay, at least the state minimum wage, and or the rate agreed upon when they hired the employee. So most employees who work overtime, which is considered any hours worked over 40, are entitled to 1.5 times the rate of pay for those hours. I know we had a question about overtime exemptions come in prior to the webinar, so I'll try to address it now. We can always talk more in the Q&A. But just to be clear, it's really unlikely that frontline direct care staff members would be exempt from overtime pay. And part of the question was about why some titles are exempt from overtime. We don't really have a good answer for the why because it's about the legislative process that led up to this. And overtime law is based on federal U.S. Department of Labor law and the Fair Labor Standards Act, which was actually established under President Roosevelt. So it was a long time ago, but I think the why around some titles being exempt is really that if higher paid employees also got overtime, it would be really costly for employers. So again, it's based on federal U.S. Department of Labor regulations that we follow here in New Jersey. And there's some occupations which don't require overtime pay, including those who work in executive, administrative, or professional capacity. But for today, we think your takeaway should be it's important to understand that employers can't just assume an employee is exempt because of their job title or because they're salaried. And there are requirements in the Fair Labor Standards Act that an employer must meet to claim a specific overtime exemption. So to be sure to understand those. And you can find more information on our website. So I'm sure many of you are aware, since January, the minimum wage for most employees in New Jersey is $15.49. This is our handy minimum wage chart that's available on our site. And I'm sure, as the commissioner mentioned, most of you are aware of the higher minimum wage for long-term care, direct care staff. And as of January, that rate is $18.49 per hour. So next, there are rules around pay periods and pay. When you hire, you have to let your employee know about the pay rate and regular pay day and notify them in advance of any changes. Employers also have to provide employees with a statement of deductions with each pay period. Employees have to be paid regularly, at least twice a month, and no more than 10 days after the end of the pay period. And finally, an employer cannot require direct deposit for their employees. And next, employers have record keeping requirements. And for most laws, those records must go back 6 years. We also recommend employees keep their own records. Tools like the USDOL timekeeping app are really useful, and we recommend those. Next, we'll touch on misclassification, which the commissioner also mentioned. So sometimes employers classify workers as independent contractors, also known as 1099 workers, when really they're employees. Or sometimes employers pay cash off the books, and both of these are considered misclassification. And if this occurs, even if they agree to it, the employee is not at fault, but they're missing out on work rights and benefits. Employers that misclassify can face penalties, and the employee could be entitled to financial compensation. So we're not going to get into the ABC test, which defines an employee today, but we, again, have lots of helpful information available on our website. And in particular, myworkrights.nj.gov/employers is a great starting point for all of the laws that we're covering today, including misclassification. So we're sure employers like you who join a presentation like this are all in compliance, and we're here to help you with compliance if you have questions. But it is important to recognize that a worker does have the right to file a complaint. Our agency must address violations of the law when they happen. Audits are rare and they're usually unannounced. The best way to prepare that we advise is to always keep complete and accurate records. And during an audit, the department will check your time and payroll records for compliance. And if we find violations or an employer doesn't cooperate, they could pay wages owed to employees, penalties, and fees. And the best way to file is online at the link here, but you can also file by mail. And we always want workers to know that we have individuals who can assist you if you need help in a language other than English. And finally, we want to remind employers that retaliation can include firing, disciplinary action, cutting pay or hours, or other adverse actions when an employee files a complaint or participates in an investigation or complains about a violation. There's also a newer law about retaliation in New Jersey. If an employer discloses or threatens to disclose a worker's immigration status to conceal violations, there are increased penalties. And employees can file complaints when they suspect retaliation, and they can also take private legal action. So now I'm going to hand it over to Rebecca.
Thanks so much, Holly. So I'm going to continue with some other programs and benefits that all New Jersey employers and employees should be aware of. So the first is New Jersey Paid Family and Medical Leave, officially known as Temporary Disability and Family Leave Insurance. And these are cash benefit programs when a worker can't work because they need to care for their own or a loved one's illness or injury, for maternity and paternity leave, so pregnancy, childbirth, bonding with a new child, or to cope with domestic or sexual violence or support a loved one who is coping. There are earnings requirements to be eligible for these programs. Earnings can be met through multiple employers. So if an employee has multiple part-time jobs, that all contributes to their earnings requirements. An employee also needs a valid Social Security number to apply. Employers must set up payroll contributions for their employees. Temporary disability insurance is funded by both employer.
Rebecca, I think we're losing her audio. Everybody else can't hear her?
Reading payroll contributions. The employee
Rebecca really quickly. Okay.
Rebecca, I'm also happy to take over in the meantime if you need a tech moment. Does that sound good, Tyler?
Yeah, seems like she might need a tech moment. We still can't hear you, Rebecca. You're on mute.
Okay.
Are you able to hear me now?
Oh, she's back. Yes, we can hear you. Can you hear us?
I think it's my computer.
No, I can hear you, Rebecca. Maybe she can't hear us.
Okay, I'll take over in the meantime. So as Rebecca was saying, there's earnings requirements. You can meet those across multiple employers. Paid family medical leave covers one's own illness or injury, recovery from pregnancy or childbirth, bonding with a new child, coping with domestic or sexual violence. And if an employer is not registered with employer accounts, they could still be eligible for benefits. So we encourage workers to apply. I know we got a question about the FMLA, the Federal Family Medical Leave Act, prior to the webinar, and that's about your job protection rights when you take leave to care for yourself or a loved one. So those are separate from the benefit programs that we at the department oversee. The FMLA is the Federal Family and Medical Leave Act, and we also have a state level law called the New Jersey Family Leave Act. And it can get a little confusing, but we have a really great new digital tool we're excited to share today that we just rolled out thanks to the Office of Innovation and the Division on Civil Rights. I think we're going to drop the link in the chat. It's a new job protection tool where you can answer a few questions and understand if you are covered under the FMLA and or the New Jersey Family Leave Act. Sometimes, depending on your leave, those two job protection laws run concurrently. Sometimes they run consecutively. Okay, so we can move on to the next slide.
Are you able to hear me now?
Rebecca, yes. Can
So
you hear
sorry
us?
about that, everyone.
That's okay.
This moment's gonna haunt my dreams tonight, but we move on. Okay. So for unemployment benefits, these are another cash benefit program if a worker loses their job or work hours through no fault of their own. Like paid family and medical leave, there are minimum earnings requirements that can be met across multiple employers. Workers have to have a work authorization during the periods of the earnings, and they need a valid Social Security number to apply. And our myunemployment.nj.gov website has a lot of information for you there. I'll just also note for employers who have any questions about payroll taxes and experience rating questions, our employer accounts division can answer your questions, and we'll briefly talk about them in a few slides. Workers' compensation. By law, every employer in New Jersey must have workers' compensation insurance for their employees. Workers' compensation can provide medical treatment, wage replacement, and permanent disability compensation to employees who suffer any job-related injuries or illnesses. So temporary disability insurance or paid family and medical leave covers non-job related injuries and illnesses. This is if you experience a physical or mental health condition related to your job. And our website, nj.gov/labor/WC for workers' comp, that has more information there. Okay, so now we're going to talk about some new protections under the New Jersey Domestic Workers Bill of Rights, which went into effect July 1st of 2024. Holly mentioned earlier, but I'll just remind you all, the process for draft notice of rule proposal is underway. The regulations will likely be published in the spring or early summer, and at which point there's going to be a public comment period. The presentations based on statute, we're going to do our best to answer questions, but there might be some things we can't answer right now because it might depend on regulation. So we'll keep you posted. And the rule proposal will be published on our website. Okay. So this is going to be a high-level overview of the law. And we'll first talk about what a domestic worker is considered under the law. So domestic workers specifically are workers who provide in-home services to private households like childcare, house cleaning, caregiving for elderly and disabled people, cooking, etc. And so the Domestic Workers Bill of Rights, as you can imagine, covers people in roles like nannies, childcare providers, babysitters, caretakers, cooks, gardeners, house cleaners, etc. A law has like the precise legal definition, and there's also more details on our website about who's covered. But in general, it's any worker who does work in a private home. The Domestic Worker Bill of Rights, this is a high-level overview of the new rights for domestic workers under the law. So this includes a contract in the employee's language, breaks like rest breaks, meal breaks, breaks for live-in workers, depending how long they work, privacy and personal spaces, and the ability for private communications, new health and safety standards, which will be adopted through formal rulemaking, and the protection from discrimination under the New Jersey Law Against Discrimination, which is enforced by our friends at the New Jersey Division on Civil Rights. I'll go into a bit more detail about the contract requirements just because this is such like the crux of the law, I think. So for covered domestic workers that work 5 or more hours a month for that employer, the employer must provide a written contract with them. It's the employer's responsibility to create a contract that complies with the law, and an employer cannot retaliate against a worker for asking for a contract. A few things to note. Sometimes a worker might be employed by a private household and a hiring agency or something like that. So if a worker is jointly employed, both entities need to sign the contract. The contract must be in English and the worker's preferred language. The department has model contracts on our website in English and Spanish right now, but we are working on other translations. If a domestic worker needs another language, it's the employer's responsibility to provide that translation if the department hasn't posted one yet. Just to note, even if an employer fails to provide an employee a contract, their other rights still apply. So it's not like if an employer fails to provide a contract or provide one aspect of the law and follow one aspect of the law, the other parts of the law still apply. We get that question a lot from some workers. I'll also take this moment to talk about the law against discrimination. And I'm talking about it now, even though all workers are covered under the law, because with the passage of the Domestic Workers Bill of Rights, domestic workers are now covered under this law as well. So the New Jersey Law of Discrimination prohibits discrimination and harassment in employment, as well as places of public accommodations and housing based on certain characteristics like race, nationality, gender, sexual orientation, national origin, etc. And this law is enforced by the Division on Civil Rights. So you can find more information on their website and use their complaint form or give them a call. This is a quick summary of employer responsibilities under the Domestic Worker Bill of Rights. So it's important for employers to ensure they have a written contract that complies with the law. inform employees of their rights, and avoid retaliating against employees who seek to exercise their rights. Employers need to register as an employer through the department and contribute taxes if a worker earns $1,000 or more annually. Provide workers' compensation insurance to their employees, maintain records of hours worked, pay rates, any break time, earned sick leave, and other leave time and agreements. Uh, and just non-compliance, like Holly mentioned, can result in penalties for employers. So it's important to keep really good records of your compliance. Even if an employer is not registered with the state and pays cash off the books, the employees are entitled to their rights under the Domestic Worker Bill of Rights, including a written contract. So again, this is just along the vein of just because an employer doesn't follow one rights or is failing to comply with one aspect of the law does not prevent that employer from following other rights as well. Holly mentioned this earlier, but I think it's helpful to repeat. So all workers have anti-retaliation protections, and employers can face fines and penalties if they retaliate against a worker in any way. But specifically, if an employer discloses or threatens to disclose a worker's immigration status to hide that they broke certain laws, they could face even bigger penalties. And this law was recently passed. Okay, so we're going to transition away from work rights and talk about some other services that the department offers. So the first we'll talk about employer access through our division of employer accounts. So the Department of Labor's Employer Accounts Division collects contributions for unemployment and disability insurance. It helps ensure legal compliance of these laws and manages employer accounts for these benefits. Employer Access is an online portal for employers to interact with the Employer Accounts Division, and you can use this to update your address, access different forms to help you comply, etc. And our website is nj.gov/labor/EA. We'll drop that in the chat. To register for Employer Access, you can create a My New Jersey account using your legal name and unique login ID. It's important that you avoid making multiple accounts or using shared email addresses. The Employer Access verification application must be completed by the employer itself or a representative, not a third party like a payroll company, but you could give them access after you register. Okay, I'm going to pass it back to Holly, who's going to share some final resources.
Thanks, Rebecca. Okay, so first we want to make sure employers here today understand that our business services team can assist you. They provide one-on-one concierge type services and can connect you with all of our resources and referrals throughout the state through our workforce development system. Things like supports for existing and new employees, specialty hiring programs, grant opportunities that the department has, recommendations for how to list jobs, and a lot more. So if you have needs as an employer and in these areas, our first step would be to connect you with a business rep, and you can find the contact information for your local representative on our website, or we can help connect you today. So next, in terms of grant opportunities, I know that Essential Jobs, Essential Care actually hosted a webinar last year focused on these programs that even included some of our grantees. Next slide, please. So we just want to provide a brief overview today. But basically, our upskill grant program and our on-the-job training grants can help employers cover the cost of training existing or new employees. Our growing apprenticeship in non-traditional sectors, or GAINS, promotes the expansion of USDOL registered apprenticeship and really drives skill building, educational attainment, career pathways, and ultimately leads people to better paying careers. And pre-apprenticeship prepares individuals to succeed in registered apprenticeship programs. Next, we wanted to share some of our anticipated dates for these grant programs for the next fiscal year. This isn't all of them. We're just sharing what we have as of today. You can stay informed by visiting nj.gov/labor/grants. and just check regularly for our notices of grant opportunity, also called NGOs. But Upskill should be released in August of 2025, and we're anticipated to have 4 total rounds of funding in the next fiscal year. Again, the state fiscal year is July 1 to June 30th. And then for Gains and PACE, our apprenticeship grants, our first round should be issued in September and our second round in January of 2026. Again, these are anticipated dates, and you can stay up to date by checking in regularly on our website. We have some tips we've picked up along the way doing outreach on these grants and talking with employers. So individual employers can apply for our grants, but we also want to make sure employers understand that you can also have an intermediary that applies on behalf of multiple employers. We call that a consortium. And that can work really well for small employers or for those who are new to state grants or just don't have the resources to manage and administer a state grant. But all employers who receive state dollars have to provide a tax clearance certificate from Treasury. These grants do not provide upfront funding, it is reimbursement. We like to make sure folks understand that. And finally, the training for employees must be W-2 employees and not independent contractors. Again, these are just some tips. There's lots of information in the notices of grant opportunity. And I also encourage folks, like if you're thinking about it, just go and read some of the past notices and get a feel for what's required in an application. And we're here to help. If, again, your business rep, if you connect with a business rep to get that one-on-one help, if you have questions, they can connect you with the team that oversees a particular grant program. And next, we want to be sure you're aware of our career services resources. First, our new online resource called mycareer.nj.gov. You can explore a whole suite of career, job, and training tools. And at our one-stops around the state, in every county, we have career counselors who can support you individually. And you can find a list of local one-stops online at the link here. These are some key resources we just wanted to call out that we feel like are really the most important ones from today's presentation. We know it's a lot of information. Employers, myworkrates.nj.gov/employers is a great way to start to really get to know all of the different benefits and protections and your role in them as an employer. For employees, myworkrates.nj.gov is a great starting point. We have the Domestic Workers Bill of Rights webpage that's full of information, including a really great outreach toolkit. And as I mentioned, the career services sites are here. And if you're interested in that, business representative for your area to get that one-on-one help, you can go to nj.gov/labor/business. And we'll be sharing our slides with Tyla, so she can share them out with all of you, and the links are live in the slide deck, so you'll have easy access to them. And that is it for our presentation. I'm happy we have about 20 minutes left for questions. And I did just want to say that, again, this is a lot of information. And if you're interested in going more in depth on any of these topics, if you would love a presentation that is a little bit more detailed on any of them, we want to hear from you. So you could let Tyler know or let us know or just say it in the chat. We would love to hear that. And I will stop now. Thanks,
Thank you
Tyler.
so much, Holly and Rebecca. So yeah, thanks to our chat bots for this event. We are adding so much information to the chat, so I will share all of that after by email. So we'll share the slides, we'll share all of the helpful links that Kim has put in. So please think of some questions now that we have a few minutes. I know I saw a couple come in already. But please think of some and add them to the chat now. We also have a survey that's going to pop up for you when the webinar is over. So you can also feel free to let us know how we did and also add some more specific topics that you'd like to hear about. This was really meant to give you a very broad overview of everything at the department and where you can find additional resources. So we'd be happy to think about doing some additional events on more specific topics. So I'm not seeing any questions in the chat yet, but I saw some come in a little bit earlier. And Holly and Rebecca, I know you all have offered to answer questions after the fact too, if for some reason you can't answer something or if we don't get to them. So I don't know if you all have this information, but somebody asked if we were going to speak about Retire Ready New Jersey. So I don't know if you all have that information now or if that's something you could share after the fact.
So we are not covering that. That law, as far as I know, is not being implemented through the Department of Labor. I don't know if the commissioner has any additional thoughts or advice for someone interested in learning more, but I think there's a great webpage that the state has on it, and I can put that in the chat.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, and a question just came in for us on immigration. Are there immigration status protections that would remain in place if federal orders require disclosure of that information?
Can you say that one more time, Tyler?
Yeah, sorry about that. Are there immigration status protections that would remain in place? So are there any protections for immigrants in New Jersey that would supersede any federal orders? And I think just in general, I know you spoke briefly about immigration status and how the department doesn't ask about immigration status. I don't know if there are any additional information as well about advice for employers about how to deal with immigration questions. That would be helpful.
So the way I would describe this is our work rights laws protect all workers in New Jersey, regardless of their particular immigration status. But when it comes to a worker's legal status in this country, and any processes that are taking place with regard to that, or if, for example, a worker was detained, our department doesn't have a role to play there. We would, however, and we do always seek to investigate a complaint. So if a worker filed a complaint with us and we found that there was a violation, we would proceed with that regardless of what happens with a worker's status. And the second part of your question, Tyler, was like any advice that we would give to employers. I will share our page in the chat again. We link to some other agencies, specifically Office of New Americans at Department of Human Services has, Rebecca linked it. They have guidance that it's not from our department, but they do have some helpful guidance there for organizations, for employers, for nonprofit organizations, etc. Hope that's
Great.
helpful.
Yes, thank you very much. I know that's something that's been top of mind for the coalition, so we'll be looking into that and gathering additional resources as well. Okay, another question came in. Does the department plan on having model contracts for healthcare service firms, which are firms that hire home health aides? I think I'm guessing that's in relation to the Domestic Workers Bill of Rights.
If you could repeat that one more time.
Does the department plan on having model contracts for healthcare service firms? So firms that hire home health aides.
So, Rebecca, please jump in. I think the model contracts that we were required to create under the statute are fairly generic and apply to any employer of a domestic worker that is defined under the law. So at this point in time, that's how those model contracts have been designed. And certainly any employer, including a healthcare service firm that employs domestic workers covered under the law, can utilize that model contract to meet their needs. Again, it is a model contract. There's requirements in the law for what a contract must contain. But what we were mandated to do was just provide a model that is on the website. So certainly, my understanding is if a contract meets the requirements under the law, then that employer is being compliant with the law. But again, as we said, the regulations are not yet final. So this is something that might change. I'm not 100% sure. And it's certainly during the public comment period, if there are comments in this vein, like we certainly encourage healthcare service firms to participate in that process.
And if you wouldn't mind sharing the when that rulemaking becomes public for public comment, we'd be happy to share that with coalition members as well to make sure they get an opportunity to comment. Any other questions from attendees? I'm not seeing any more in the chat or in our Q&A, so feel free to add your questions now if you have them. Again, I'll just take the opportunity. Okay, we got another one, but just to mention, we do have a survey popping up at the end, so please do take that survey and make sure that you're adding in there other things that you want to hear from the department on. Does the Department of Labor have plans to work with the state's Medicaid program to ensure home care workers and domestic workers paid through state Medicaid are ensured their workers' rights?
Thank you for that question. It's a really good one. We're looking carefully at how the Domestic Workers Bill of Rights applies in this area. I think in particular, the joy is getting to the personal, I believe it's called the Personal Preference Program. I'm sorry if I'm getting the name wrong of the Medicaid program. But it's a NJ Family Care program where an individual receiving Medicaid can choose who requires in-home services. An elderly person or a person with disabilities receiving Medicaid can use that Medicaid for in-home services and care. And the question is about that worker providing that care. So it is a great question. I think there's some intricacies that we are working through as part of the rulemaking. We certainly always partner with our fellow state agencies on implementation, and really appreciate that question. And down the line, as we do outreach and education and all these different niche areas of the populations affected, we definitely look forward to working with stakeholders and talking more about this with you. Thanks, Kim. This is really interesting, and thanks for pointing us to that resource. We'll definitely be taking a look at that. Thank you so much.
I'll add another question and answer that we got ahead of time that folks might be interested in about the Domestic Worker Bill of Rights, since we have time for it. So someone did ask ahead of time about the impact to live-in workers. So the question was, what if a caregiver wants to work 7 days in a row? And I think this question comes from the fact that under the Domestic Worker Bill of Rights, live-in workers cannot be required to work more than 6 days in a row without a 24-hour rest period. That's in the law. However, just to clarify, the domestic worker and employer can agree that the worker work that 7th day. The employer cannot penalize the worker if they don't want to work that 7th day. The employee can change their mind and say they want that right to take that break. The schedule needs to still have in that contract. And the employer must still follow all other wage and hour laws like overtime, minimum wage, etc. on that 7th day. So let me know if you have any more questions there. Just wanted to provide that Q&A from the initial submission.
Great. Thanks, Rebecca. I'm not seeing any other questions. If anybody has, we still have a few minutes left. So if anybody has any additional questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat or in the Q&A. And then I'll just take this moment to see Holly, Rebecca, Commissioner, if you have any other thoughts that you wanted to add before we wrap up for the day.
Well, say thank you, the hosts and the folks for taking part in this. And just on that question about working with the Medicaid programs, it's something we're in constant contact with our colleagues over at DHS. It's something we're trying to do a better job of in this department, is making sure that we're talking to other regulating agencies who have the same, sometimes overlapping jurisdiction over the workforce that they oversee, or the employers that they regulate. So thank you for that question. It's something we're focused on all the time, and obviously, especially through Holly's office.
Great, thank you. Okay, yes, slides are going to be sent out. I'm also going to send out any additional links that were added to the chat for folks and some of the resources that were mentioned. And again, just please fill out the survey that pops up after we close out of the webinar so that we can hear your feedback and know how we can help you moving forward. So with that, not seeing any additional questions, just want to thank the Department of Labor, Commissioner Angelo, Holly, Rebecca, Kim, and Armony for being here. We appreciate, on behalf of the Essential Jobs, Essential Care Coalition, appreciate you all making yourselves available and sharing all of the resources that are at the department for everyone. So with that, thank you all for attending, and thanks for the support from the Henry and Marilyn Taub Foundation for the Essential Jobs, Essential Care Coalition. Thanks, and have a great day, everybody.